Hello there, Bearbard here, welcoming you back to another episode of the Bearbard Tales. Today we have a special story. This is the first user story to be submitted through our Reddit r/BearbardTales. I'm actually super stoked to have this submission. Again, first one through our subreddit, so it's always great to have that. Today's title is Family is Hell. Nice and ominous title, that one. That being said, it's definitely an RPG horror story. So why don't you sit back, relax, and let's roll to seduce. I made a throwaway account since I had to delete my Reddit account. The people the story is about found the post and started harassing me about it until I deleted it. This happened a year ago, and I haven't spoken with my brother and sister-in-law since. Neither has my husband. I'm still upset about this, and I doubt I'll ever forgive this. On to the story. My husband DMs and loves it. He's always creating worlds and plots, and is very popular with our group for it. I had to leave the group 2 years ago due to a car accident, and he followed, so he could take care of me. They didn't like this, but begrudgingly understood. They did tell him that he could take care of me and DM for them, and that it wasn't fair that they should suffer just because his wife had been hit by a car as a pedestrian. I wasn't happy with their attitude, but we both ignored it. I finally got to a place where going to a weekly group didn't seem impossible, and COVID restrictions were lifted. So we went back to the group, and my loving husband started a campaign that he wrote. I'm still in the wheelchair from the accident, and it's looking like that's permanent. There was one player who I had never gotten along with. He didn't like any female players, and he kept bullying me about how I got numbers and did things. I explained, showed him, and then he told me that it wouldn't be allowed by any experienced DM. For example, in his games, to get the +3 to class skills, you need to have the max ranks instead of just 1. My husband as the DM kept shutting him down, but it continued out of character with texts. I even showed my sheet to DMs I found on Reddit and Facebook, and they all said it was perfectly acceptable. There were issues now with the rest of the group as they were being forced to take sides. Even not commenting got them attacked for being on my side. Every session turned into a battle. I often cried before games because of how much I dreaded it. I was depressed and miserable. It all came to a head when I made the mistake of saying I did +17 damage. English is not my first language, and I was tired. The one jerk player jumped on me, and my husband told him that I just misspoke and to let it go. We argued about it, and finally everyone agreed that I simply misspoke. It happens. My husband then excused himself to the bathroom, thinking it was over. The jerk took that as permission to restart his attack. By the time my husband returned, half the players had left and I was in tears. I still can't believe that my brother and sister-in-law saw this happen and left me. The jerk was holding the handles of my wheelchair and was bent over to scream in my ear. I was having a panic attack and sobbing. My husband pulled me away and we left. We muted both our phones so we can calm down. The next morning, we'd gotten a ton of messages overnight, mainly blaming me for being too sensitive. I'd made the mistake of posting this and the jerk found it. He was freaking out about me doxing him, despite there being no information. He told my husband that I was no longer welcome to play with him and that he was refusing to play in a group that I was in. Awesome. Problem solved. Except it got so much worse. My husband said that that was fine. He'd never DM for jerk again. When we got a text from my brother-in-law, whose house we gamed at, and jerk's best friend, that he wasn't going to ban me from the group, but he was no longer comfortable or willing to make his house wheelchair accessible by putting a ramp up and moving a kitchen chair so that I could fit at the table. My husband didn't respond. He couldn't. I've never seen him so angry. If he had seen his brother at that moment, he'd have punched him. Since then, my brother-in-law has realized that my husband is no longer willing to DM. He had thought that my husband's love of gaming would drive him to game and DM without me. That view is swiftly corrected. That started a minor shit show. He's been getting a lot of texts begging him to come back. Apparently, I'm invited to games so long as I do not play or interfere with the game. So basically, sit there and stay silent. I'm still supposed to bring dinner every week though. My husband refused and is now being accused of favoritism. Apparently, he doesn't care that they are friends and that they are in the middle of a long-running 7 months campaign. I've been called a bitch and a cunt for breaking up the group. They've been bringing up every fight my husband and I have had and everything I've ever done wrong. I've had to block their numbers and their Facebook profiles to stop this. My brother-in-law also sent my husband information on a divorce lawyer, so I changed the password to my Hulu, Netflix, Disney Plus, and Amazon Prime. Now I'm even more of a bitch. Jerk also messaged my Roll20 DM and tried to convince him that I was a cheater. That didn't go as planned, and he's ended up banned from 3 Facebook groups due to harassing me on every post I make. I've had to disappear from social media since he keeps making new accounts and harassing me. He's also received a warning from a local gaming store that if he starts drama in the store or on their page, he'll be banned. My brother-in-law is still taking Jerk's side without question, which is infuriating my husband. I'm very sad that this drama has cost my husband a relationship with his brother, but I can hardly think that I can be blamed for it. We've been completely no contact since this, and I can honestly say that I'm enjoying both playing and DMing via Roll20. This has permanently cost the relationship since at this point both my husband and I refuse to forgive. They've never reached out once they realized that we aren't letting this go. They still complain about not having a DM, and I see a ton of LFG posts on Facebook. Sadly, they've gotten a reputation and don't seem to be able to find anything. A part of me wishes that they could see what happened was wrong and that my brother-in-law could cut Jerk out of his life. Without that influence, he'd likely apologize and we could have some sort of relationship. He was my husband's best friend for many years. He'll never cut Jerk off though, because Jerk is his only remaining friend. Another part of me is sadistically amused that they don't even have anyone in their group capable of running a module. They made their bed and neither I or my husband will ever DM for them ever again. And scene. Jesus. You know, it's so sad. I hate seeing this kind of thing when people, family is the one group that should always have your back. You know, I get it. Like there's families that fight and then you get, you know, brothers-in-law, sisters-in-law. That's where it starts getting, you know, out there. But it's always disheartening when you can't turn to your family to have your back. I mean, could you imagine, you know, your brother or your sister-in-law or someone that's related to you going through this situation. They're having a hard enough time. They got hit by a freaking truck. They're in a wheelchair. And some dude, it doesn't even matter what it's about. I mean, especially because it's about a game. But this guy grabs her handlebars and just starts screaming at her. And you don't have her back? You know, it's always disheartening when you see that. And just that guy in general, like I couldn't imagine, no matter how mad I would be, ever grabbing anybody and shouting at them like that over anything. And I'm talking, you know, you talk about something serious. Maybe if they like came and attacked my family or something like that, but not over a damn game. You know, I love D&D as much as the next guy, but there is nothing that happens in D&D that deserves that kind of reaction. And you always hate seeing that. You get these grown man babies or these grown adult children, you know, it can be anybody, that just cannot handle themselves. You know, it's a game. It's you know, that's the crazy part about all these things. It's a freaking game. This is supposed to be your relaxation time. This is your release. This is the time that you can just be creative and have fun and be you. And you're spending this time so angry that you're calling people out, you're shouting. I mean, there's no reason anything should escalate to this level. Maybe if you're like near the end of a game of Monopoly, you know, I'll give you that. You're at the end of a game of Monopoly, you know, it's this or flip the table, you know, and they don't want to clean up the pieces, so they go to this. You know, I mean, maybe, you know, Monopoly can get you there, but not D&D. You know, I mean, come on. On top of that, what is that dude? You know, what are they even associating with that guy for? I mean, that level of anger, that's some scary stuff right there. You know, that's where you have to start worrying about anything. You know, these are the types of guys that, you know, it just you're around them, and if you say the wrong thing, they can pop off at you. You know, these aren't the type of people you should be around, regardless. You know, especially bringing into a game where they can get their emotions up. But in general, like this guy, he clearly needs help. Hopefully, you know, maybe one of them can get him the help he needs. Again, that's no justification. There's no justification for any of this, but, you know, hopefully someone can at least reach out to him and start getting him that help he so desperately clearly needs. And going back to this family thing, you know, there's no game that should ever come before family. Any game ever, period, in any sort of medium. You know, family is so important, and I get it. Like, you know, not everyone has the closest family, the closest that, but family should always come first. There should never be a game, again, whether it's D&D, whether it's, you know, and even Monopoly that, you know, I'll let you flip a table over. At the end of it, you're still family, and it shouldn't drive you apart. And that's, I mean, think about that. Think about, you're at the end of your life. You haven't talked to your sibling, your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, whatever. You haven't talked to someone in your family for 30 years. You think back on it, it's because of a freaking game. I mean, how stupid would you feel? You know, they're facing the end of your life and you lost these years over a freaking game. That's insane to me. And I get it. There's, people have lost more over less, but just, maybe this is like a call out, like don't lose what's important, like family, over something as small as D&D or any game. I want to thank you guys for making it through to the end and for joining me here on this episode of Bear Bar Tales. If you have a story that you want to submit to be read, you can do that on either our Discord or our subreddit. Again, I'd like to thank the OP for being the first to submit to our Reddit. It's awesome to see that. The links for both the Reddit and the Discord can be found down in the description. If you had fun listening to this video and you want to hear more, go ahead and hit that like button and give me a follow. We're trying to grow a really cool community here, and I'd love to have you be a part of that. For now, this has been the Bear Bard, and I'll see you guys next time.